I am today suspending my campaign. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear.
DeSantis drops out. Just 2 days before the New Hampshire primary, the presidential hopeful pulled the plug on his campaign. Now he's backing former President Donald Trump. My sources tell me that DeSantis sees the writing on the wall and in his campaign cash because that's beginning to run out too. But by bowing out now, the Florida governor, who at one point led former President Donald Trump in the polls, he's able to keep an eye on the presidential race in 2028. Yes, I did say 2028. But it's also keeping his options open for what DeSantis assumes will be a Trump nomination and a potential Trump return to the White House. DeSantis is only polling in single digits, but his supporters are far likelier to back Trump than Nikki Haley. And DeSantis' supporters could give Trump the additional boost in the New Hampshire primary to give Trump a big league win. Or not. Haley is touting DeSantis' departure as a sign that it's a two-person race for the future of the Republican Party. She's backing that independent voters will turn out in record numbers in New Hampshire to give her the upset win. But she's still trailing Trump, in some polls by double digits, in others by single digits. Regardless, she's down outside the margin of error. And over the weekend, both Haley and Trump went after each other, or at least Trump tried to, but at one point on the trail, Trump appeared to confuse Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi.
Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, whatever they want. They turned it down. They don't want to talk about that. These are very dishonest people.
Haley took her opening, questioning Trump's mental fitness.
He's just not at the same level he was at 2016. I think we're seeing some of that decline.
Biden also took the opportunity to knock Trump, posting on X, quote, "I don't agree with Nikki Haley on everything, but we agree on this much. She is not Nancy Pelosi." And remember, The Hill will have special live programming for the New Hampshire primary. Check it out here at thehill.com and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel. The Senate is hoping that they will be able to hammer out a bipartisan border funding and supplemental aid package this week. The upper chamber is banking that they'll be able to get to an agreement while the focus is on the New Hampshire primary and the House is out in recess. It's a risky gamble for the Senate, and President Biden appears optimistic that they'll get to a deal this week. But this is an election year, and the campaign trail, specifically former President Donald Trump, is playing a dominant force in the negotiations. Trump doesn't want a compromise on border funding, and the Republican caucus, especially in the House, appears to be listening to him. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, the third highest-ranking GOP member in the House, was campaigning with him in New Hampshire. So whatever the Senate comes up with, they're going to have to pass through not just House Speaker Mike Johnson, but Donald J. Trump. Heading overseas, Russia is blaming Ukraine for the deaths of 28 civilians in the Russian-controlled eastern Ukraine city of Donetsk. Kyiv is denying responsibility. Elsewhere, shipping costs are surging as attacks in the Red Sea due to the Houthi terrorists continue. And the death toll in the Israel-Hamas war has now surpassed 25,000 lives lost. The New York Times is reporting that the daily death toll in Gaza has fallen in half over the past month. This is a sign that Israel's leaders have shifted their strategy in the war following advice from the Biden administration and other allies. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected the Hamas terms for hostage release, but Washington has grown increasingly skeptical of Netanyahu's leadership. More on Trump. Projecting a sense of inevitability, Trump world is openly ruminating about who he will tap to be his running mate. And let's just say it doesn't sound like he's going to pick Nikki Haley.
She is not presidential timber. Now, when I say that, that probably means that she's not going to be chosen as the vice president.
Other names I'm hearing from my sources in Trump world, Dr. Ben Carson, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, both of whom have endorsed Trump, and Elise Stefanik, as well as South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Typically, that'll get picked a few weeks before mid-July's GOP convention, but who knows with this election cycle. And are you feeling election fatigued? You are not alone. A new Decision Desk HQ News Nation poll found that 59% of registered voters are not too enthusiastic or not at all enthusiastic about a rematch between Trump and Biden. Only about 41% said that they are very enthusiastic or somewhat enthusiastic about a rematch. Okay, for all the dog lovers out there, and I am one as well, ever wonder why dogs wag their tails? No, it's not because our furry friends are happy to see us. but rather the other way around. Researchers in Europe published a study last week in the Biology Letters journal proposing that humans were the ones who were actually content in seeing canines wagging their tails and chose them for their perceived happy and friendly demeanor, altering dogs' tail wagging unintentionally. Here's the rub. Humans like rhythm, everything from music to the sound of ocean waves, and tail wagging, as it turns out, is rhythmic too. The findings are merely theories per the study's author, and more research is needed. I'm gonna say that my dog is wagging the tail because they're happy to see me, or because he knows that it's almost supper time. That's it for today's Daily Debrief. I'm Kevin Cirilli. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.